You are listening to the Push Media Podcast Network.
This is good shit.
I know I laced it with blood.
Rio proved too much for the man. So he's leaving on a midnight train to Poland to deny surviving the Holocaust and recently make claims of being on Hannah Montana. I got to go. This is already probably too conceptual. I don't even really remember how I somehow tied the song into George Santos, but the latest about George Santos is this. He has claimed to have been on Hannah Montana and The Sweet Life of Zack and Cody. This is true. This is real. This is what it is. This is the news. He has done a lot of things. He has claimed that his grandparents have survived the Holocaust by nature of them just literally being alive and not dying in it, but that applies to most people. He has claimed to have graduated from Ivy League schools. He hasn't. He's claimed he wasn't a drag performer in Brazil, but there's pictures. He's claimed a lot of things. He's hired a new treasurer for his campaign and forgot to tell his current treasurer. He's done a lot of funny things. And the latest is that he's claimed he's been on Hannah Montana, The Sweet Life of Zack and Cody. And when recently questioned about some of the stories that have, been up for debate in his past, he said, at one point, I might write a book. I might write a story. This guy is already thinking about writing his own made-up autobiography. Whoa! Think about this. Apart from the fact he's said, I was in Hannah Montana, I was in The Sweet Life of Zack and Cody. You might remember me as the guy who wasn't on it ever, but I'm just going to try and see if that sticks. He's in Congress. This is funny. This is really funny. I'll tell you what's a little less funny, though. Russia said, hey, just as a reminder, if someone were to lose a really big war that they were involved in, and it would be bad for everyone because then that someone, we're not saying it's us, but if we were to get defeated in a war, we definitely thought we would win. I'm just saying, but I'm not. We might just try and go nuclear and blow up the world. That was a real threat made by a very high-ranking person of the Russian military this week. Not good, not great. No, that was truly the message. That was the sentiment, saying, hey, if the Ukraine defeats us and we basically are just shocked and just made to be defeated, which was a big change and shift in tone. If that happens, we might just, hey, we're not saying we will, but we could. We just might just say, hey, let's blow up everything. Let's take our ball and go home and blow up the whole goddamn thing. That was a big change in tone made by Russia. And the way we responded to that was by allowing 31 tanks. 31 tanks. Yeah, 31 tanks. I almost for a second was thinking of a way to tie in 41 shots and Bruce Springsteen. Then I realized, fuck, why would I try and do that? But so 31 tanks were sent to Poland, of all places. And they're American tanks. And we're letting them use them for now, but they're American tanks and they're getting placed there just in case. Because the fact that if we need America to get involved in the war and fully be involved in it and be a frontal facing part is a very last resort effort. We don't want that to happen. But if it is going to happen, we need to make sure that if we need to, we are ready to do it on a dime. And the way to do that is by sending in our own tanks to other places like Poland, to their front lines, to allow them to set them all up, to use them. Sure, we're going to pretend we're just loaning them, but whenever we really need to, we're going to be over there in the quickest of helicopter rides, ready to blow up a Ruski, holla back, young, and whoop, whoop. That's what we're doing in Poland. And tensions are rising because the stakes seem to have been artificially risen, or just stupidly risen, or just risen because of Russians involved. Because Russia somehow hasn't been able to decisively beat the Ukraine, and the Ukraine has been able to keep it going long enough for Zelensky, who gets a fresh haircut every week, to start, censoring all media outlets, because the United States has been sending money and weapons and ammunition and resources over to the Ukraine to basically have a proxy war with Russia, but doing everything other than getting physically involved themselves. And that has been enough to delay the Ruskies from winning, because I honestly never thought they had a great chance because they're generally just kind of stupid. I hate to be judgmental, but they're stupid. That's just what it is. I'm okay with you thinking that about me. But anyway, the Russians weren't able to win because we have been keeping and propping up the Ukraine because we don't like Russia. And that's created this kind of mini power vacuum where it clearly looks like if Ukraine does eventually come out on top and Russia does lose, Zelensky's going to be a dictator. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. That just looks like an absolute simple fact. But Russia has just kind of changed the stakes of this because they just said, hey, we're not saying we're going to do this, but like, hey, everyone should remember if like a really big world power loses a really embarrassing war like this one with Russia and the Ukraine, I'm just saying the big superpower might, if they're so embarrassed, we're just saying we're not going to do it, but we might because we're crazy and Russian. If we're too embarrassed, we might just blow up everything nuclearly and say, fuck it, and take our ball and go home. So Russia has just raised the stakes pretty high because it doesn't look like it's just safe to now keep, sidestepping and half-stepping with the Ukraine and letting them eventually drain Russia dry, because it seems like Russia might then at one point just say, let's just go, Middle Eastern style and blow up everything, which is not good at all. We don't want that. But we also, what I'm saying is we don't really want a new dictator to be minted and pressed a la Vladimir Zelensky, because it clearly looks like he's taken every step possible to do that. God damn it, I wish Russia would have just been happy with the border they had. They shouldn't have gone after Crimea, because now this doesn't look like it ends well at all. Because if the Ukraine comes out on top, which everyone thinks is the best way, that would be good winning. We very, very clearly just have a new dictator in charge of the most intelligent of the Ruski variety, I'm going to venture to say, without sounding too into, ethnicity. But anyway, it clearly looks like the path for Zelensky, the former comedian who had dick jokes about pianos on national television, will be a dictator, because he would have just defeated the giant Russian Empire, which is something that everyone would be impressed by because no one saw it coming. Now, Vladimir Zelensky would have to be an incredible person to let that not go to his head and just be okay and just rule justly. I am going to assume that won't happen. Conversely, we might not even get to that point, because Russia, who seemed so made up in their mind that we are going to be able to take the Ukraine easy, seemed to bet all of their eggs in that basket, so to speak. They have decided essentially we are going to take a Jonestown approach where if we do lose, I think we are just going to distribute Kool-Aid for everyone here. And by that, we mean we're going to create a Kool-Aid bomb that we're just going to explode and hope to get as many people outside of Russia as well. We don't want that either. So I don't see what the best solution is here. Because honestly, the best way, I guess, would be if Putin dies early, but then that's just a power vacuum as to who's then in charge of Russia, and there's a lot to fix there. And the Ukraine, I really do think we're not appreciating that Zelensky has set up the steps to really become someone with much more power than I think we would have wanted them to have in the first place. So that's not great, And even more so, what's not great is that really the power to declare war comes from Congress, and a member of Congress is George Santos, who claimed to have been on Hannah Montana. I don't think he was. I'm going to go out on the ledge and say I don't think he actually was. So the people that decide, who essentially give the power to the president to declare war, which it seems like we're going to have to, regardless of how little Joe Biden really wants to. But it does seem like we're going to have to soon. We have a giant superpower like Russia kind of changing the entire tone of the conflict by saying, hey, we're not necessarily promising this, but if we lose, if we are made to be embarrassed or feel embarrassed in any way, we might just, instead of wrap up the war, we might just try and blow up everyone that we can with the loudest bomb. That changes the tone dramatically. But also, in a better hypothetical situation, if somehow this gets resolved and Russia doesn't manage to just blow up all of their land, which is something historically they like to do, we then have Vladimir Zelensky with the nicest haircut, probably a dictator completely, and then in charge of a lot more resources and probably way more influence and potentially an entire power vacuum of the former Russian Empire. So it doesn't seem like there's a clear win-win one way or the other related to that. And unfortunately, the people that have the power that are supposed to represent us in Congress, that grant authority to the president to declare war, a la the members of Congress, the people that grant the president the power to do that, who need to really be on their toes, gathering up-to-date information as to what's happening on the battlefield in regards to peace talks, anything going on involving the conflict currently, you would like to think the members of Congress are the most adept and attuned, and in not talking about the time they pretended to guest star on Hannah Montana and The Sweet Life of Zack and Cody. But instead, we do have hilarious people like George Santos, who is great, but is also unfortunately in a job that really matters because, you know, there might be a war that could affect a lot of things. And instead of like really being, you know, up to date with what's going on and really letting at least the people of Long Island, the people he represents, feel like he is at least doing his best to be, you know, informed on the conflict, instead, he is facing new accusations of claiming he was on Hannah Montana and The Sweet Life of Zack and Cody. Where is he even pulling that shit from? Why even pick those things? What are you doing, dog? That's an insane thing. And it's so funny, it makes you feel uncomfortable that we're not safe, because it truly, to remind everyone, Congress is who decides, you know, grants the power to declare war. You need that to happen first. And you have people in Congress like Lauren Boebert or George Santos. These aren't the people that should probably be making the decisions as to, yeah, you can go to war or not. That's not great. It doesn't seem like a good tribunal, so to speak. And Joe Biden is a president who does not want to declare war. He does not want to go to war. He's scared of war, which is all good and fine and well and whatever. But at the same time, we're sending over 31 tanks to Poland, which is clearly a sign that war is about to happen. Let me ask you, when have we ever sent tanks over to Poland and war didn't subsequently happen? Look at history. It's Poland and a tank. That's what happens with tanks in Poland. And on top of all that, you have Biden dealing with all of this, hidden classified document turn-up nonsense. Can we just let me just change points for a second. I feel like maybe we should just fire the archivist in charge of the classified documents, because I'm starting to think maybe he just sucks at his job. With Donald Trump taking classified documents, I can believe that. He seems suspicious. He seems like someone who would do that. And it was also 13 boxes that the FBI recovered. Now, when it came to Joe Biden facing accusations of having classified boxes, or at least classified documents, that was something I felt like it's very plausible. He doesn't know what happened because he doesn't ever literally know what just happened, because he's very old and senile, and, it's believable. Granted, his son is completely crooked and has been, especially in the Ukraine lately, been doing a lot of shady business. However, I still kind of just feel like it's plausible Biden didn't really know what he was doing or what was happening. And then there were just now accusations of Mike Pence having classified documents found at his house. His very, very nice house, I might add. Now, Mike Pence is someone I just really believe. Regardless of how you feel about his politics, I just believe what he says. What he says might be wrong, but I still believe he believes it. You know what I mean? I don't think he has a duplicitous nature to him. And he also had found out that Mike Pence hired someone, an independent party, to make sure that he didn't have any classified shit hiding around in his house, because that's just been something that's been happening lately to people who've been around the president. I think truly and literally at this point, when we have the current president, the former vice president, and the former president's former vice president, who is currently president, all having classified documents and all of them saying, I really don't know how that got there, I'm starting to think maybe this guy just fucking sucks at his job. The guy who's supposed to be classifying documents. Maybe the archivist fucking sucks, because at one time is sure, 2 time is sure, 3 time is a pattern. It's starting to feel much more likely that the guy who's in charge of classifying documents and making sure that the right ones end up in the right hands just fucking blows at his job. It's very believable Trump stole some shit. It's very believable Biden would want to steal some shit, but it's also very believable Biden doesn't know what's going on. That's also super very believable. It's also very believable, especially if Mike Pence hired an independent party to make sure he didn't have any classified shit and accidentally classified shit was still found. I'm starting to think the guy in charge of classifying shit is actually just terrible at that job. You know what I mean? It doesn't seem likely to me that all of these people, former presidents and vice presidents and current vice presidents, all are stealing classified documents, it's more likely that the guy who probably just got the classified document job sometime within the last few presidents and vice presidents has actually just really sucked at it. That's probably more likely to me. But that also seems to be a trend of people with jobs in the government. They used to be pretty good at it. Now it seems like the archivist fucking sucks and forgets to archive everything correctly. It seems like the people in Congress who used to be very, the people that represented people truly, the people who worked for you in the government, who really had an ability to affect change because they would be allocating money and funds and have committees and blah, blah, blah. Those people have now been replaced by people like George Santos, who used to be drag performers in Brazil, make up claims about Holocaust survival, and currently think that they were background extras on Hannah Montana and The Sweet Life of Zack and Cody. Those are the people in Congress representing us that have the power to declare war. And perhaps most frightening of all, just as equally stupid is the person currently in the role of National Archivist who just can't get a handle on the freaking job. He sucks at it so bad that every former president and vice president accidentally has something that the archivist labeled wrong, which is causing the two parties currently politically to go at one another's throats and try and get the FBI involved. And the FBI is always willing to get involved because all they want to do is create chaos because they're the goons of who's ever currently in charge. And because it keeps swinging back and forth, nothing's going to get done. Do you see how this just continues to happen? And that becomes a bigger problem when now, not only while the inefficiency continues to happen and perpetuate itself, the people getting elected into Congress are claiming they used to be on the Disney Channel, and Russia has just changed its tune from saying if we lose, we're not only going to be sore winners, we're going to blow up most of the earth. So the message here, I guess, would be better at your job. If you get a job, learn to get better at it. Don't ever feel satisfied with your current skill level. Because if you're a national archivist and you get the job and you fucking suck, you could accidentally create fodder for the two political parties to go at one another's neck, creating unnecessary chaos and getting the FBI involved, which is a crack squad of goons. The other bit of advice would be if you're going to get elected to Congress, maybe tell some bit of the truth, even though it is goddamn hilarious and genuinely impressive the levels of lies you continue to make up. Hannah Montana, Sweet Life of Zack and Cody, are you kidding me? Wow, holy shit. And then to be questioned about your background in Congress, which is the thing that gives the president the power to declare war, which he really might need soon. You're going to also respond to accusations of your made-up background by saying, hey, one day I might write a book of all of my made-up stories. That's like saying, hey, I might be a star running back who just killed my girlfriend and her boyfriend, but, if I really did it, this would be how I do it. Read my book. It seems like we are on a full-speed crash collision course of the absurd, the most absurd, meeting the most chaotic. And eventually we will collide, and all that will be left is just, how a star is born. It's just really hot and pressure and collision until suddenly chaos and absurdity collide, and all that's left is a reality that hopefully, but most likely, won't have any of us involved in it. It'll just be cold and the end result of too much all happening at once.